The stars above the battlefield were quiet, but the ground beneath was alive with fire and screams. Captain Elias Ward tightened his grip on the plasma rifle as another explosion rocked the hill. Smoke, dust, and heat blurred his visor. Around him, what remained of Earth's 77th Battalion was falling back, overwhelmed by an enemy they didn't even understand. It all started 2 weeks ago. The Earth Alliance had received a strange signal. It wasn't a distress call, and it wasn't a message of peace. It was a demand. One single message repeated across every channel. The Hive has chosen. Surrender the males, or perish. At first, Command thought it was a joke, a prank from some pirate station. But then the ships arrived, massive, living, and dark like they were carved from the night itself. They tore through Earth's defense satellites and dropped their forces on 5 colonies. Humans had fought many aliens before, but not like this. These weren't machines. They weren't soldiers in armor. These were living weapons. Tall, graceful, and terrifying. All female. All deadly. With eyes that glowed and voices that echoed inside the mind. The Hive Queens. Their warriors didn't just kill. They hunted. They moved with purpose. And they captured every male they could find. Elias didn't understand why. He didn't care. He was just trying to keep his squad alive. Back in the present, Elias ducked behind a broken vehicle as laser fire passed overhead. His comm crackled. "Captain, we're surrounded. They've cut off every exit." Elias glanced over his shoulder. Private Dax, barely 19, was shaking, holding a weapon that looked too heavy for his trembling hands. "We hold the line," Elias replied. "We find an opening." But deep down, he knew there wouldn't be one. They were being hunted. A moment later, the ground split open. A massive creature emerged. 6 legs, black shell, and a glowing blue crest. Hive drone. It opened its jaws and screeched. Elias fired without thinking. Plasma bolts tore through its shell, and it collapsed, twitching. But more were coming. Suddenly, silence fell. The drones stopped. Everything went quiet. Elias looked around. His squad was frozen, unsure whether to run or fire, and then she appeared. Tall, elegant, glowing. The Hive Queen. She walked through the smoke like a goddess of war. Blue-skinned, silver-haired, eyes like burning suns. Her armor wasn't metal, it was living flesh that shimmered with every step. She held no weapon. She didn't need one. The soldiers aimed their guns but couldn't fire. Their hands shook. Something in their minds whispered, "Don't." She stopped a few steps from Elias. Her voice entered his mind. "You, Captain Ward. You are strong. A good male. The Hive approves." Elias took a step back, rifle raised. "Stay away from my men." She tilted her head slightly. "They are not needed, only you." Before he could speak, she raised her hand. Elias felt his body freeze, not with fear, with control. His mind screamed to resist, but something deep inside him calmed. Not peace, not surrender, something primal. "You must come with me," the Queen said, "or all of your kind will suffer." Elias struggled. He gritted his teeth. "What do you want?" She smiled. "Not kind, not cruel, just certain. You must breed with us all, or you will die." The words were madness, but they weren't a threat. They were law. Elias's vision blurred as the Hive moved in. Not with violence, with purpose. The Queen stepped forward, and the last thing he saw before the world faded was her hand reaching out, not in hatred but in claim. Captain Elias Ward opened his eyes slowly. He expected pain, chains, darkness, maybe even death. Instead, he found soft light, warm air, a strange silence. He was lying on a smooth surface that pulsed like living skin. The walls around him weren't metal. They moved slightly, breathing. The ceiling was high, glowing faint blue, and covered in faint symbols. Everything around him felt alive. He sat up quickly, His uniform was gone, replaced by a simple dark robe. His weapons were missing. No boots, no armor, nothing. He wasn't alone. Standing silently nearby were two tall alien women, Hive attendants. They looked like the Queen but less radiant. Their eyes glowed dimly. Their faces were unreadable. They didn't move until Elias stood up. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice dry. One of them responded, not with her mouth, but inside his mind. "You are in the heart of the Hive. You are safe, for now." Elias stepped back, scanning the room. There were no doors, no windows, just the endless, breathing walls. "I want to speak to the Queen." "She waits," the voice replied. The wall behind them opened like a flower blooming, revealing a passage made of the same living material. The attendants turned and walked without looking back. Elias followed. He had no choice. The corridor twisted like a tunnel inside a living creature. Soft lights pulsed under the surface. Elias could hear distant humming like whispers mixed with singing. It was strange, beautiful, and terrifying. He didn't understand how they were alive, how they built ships like this, how they moved across the stars. But this wasn't science. It was something older, something deeper. They passed chambers filled with Hive females. Some trained with spears made of bone and crystal. Others sat in silence, eyes closed, meditating. All were tall, graceful, and deadly. But none looked at Elias with hate. They watched him like he was a puzzle, a challenge, a prize. Finally, the corridor opened into a massive chamber, and there she was. The Hive Queen sat on a throne made of twisting roots and crystal, glowing with light. Her long white hair flowed over her shoulders. Her armor shimmered, shaped to her perfect form. She didn't rise. She didn't need to. Elias felt pressure in his chest. Her presence filled the room. "You have questions," the Queen said without moving her lips. Elias clenched his fists. "You attacked us. You invaded our worlds. Why?" The Queen's eyes narrowed. "We did not attack. We searched. We warned. Your kind resisted." Elias stepped forward. "You said I must breed with you. With all of you. What does that mean? Why?" She stood slowly, and the air shifted. "Our kind is dying. We were once many. Now we are few. The Hive cannot grow without new blood." "Then, ask for help," Elias shouted. "Not war." The Queen walked toward him, silent and powerful. She stopped close. Too close. "Your people do not help. They destroy. You fear what you do not control." Elias met her eyes. "Then why me? You are strong, resistant to our mind touch, a leader. You will seed the new Hive. Your strength will become ours." Elias shook his head. "I won't be your slave." The Queen tilted her head. "You misunderstand. We do not enslave. We choose. And you have been chosen." He stared at her, heart pounding. Everything about her was wrong. And yet, there was a strange pull, like gravity, like a storm. "You will learn," she said. "And you will decide." Elias turned away. "I already have." The Queen raised her hand and the attendant stepped back. "You will stay. You will be shown our truth. And when the time comes, you will choose life or extinction." Elias didn't speak. He stood in silence, surrounded by a world he didn't understand, a world that didn't want war. It wanted him. Elias didn't sleep. He couldn't. The room they gave him was quiet, warm, and strange. It had no corners. The floor felt soft, like flesh. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. There was no bed, just a surface that shaped itself to his body when he sat. But his mind was louder than ever. Why him? Why now? Why this madness? He thought about his squad. Were they alive? Dead? Taken like him? He didn't know. The next morning, or whatever counted as morning inside the hive, 2 attendants entered his chamber. They didn't speak. They simply waited. Elias stood and followed. There was no point resisting. Not yet. They walked through long halls filled with strange carvings and humming sounds. The hive was like a giant living temple. Everything moved. Everything breathed. It felt like being inside the body of a sleeping giant. Eventually, they reached a tall archway. Inside stood another hive woman. She wore golden armor and had dark markings across her blue skin. Her eyes glowed green instead of yellow. "I am Varea," she said, her voice sharp. "Chosen of the second circle. I will test you." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Test me how?" She didn't answer. She raised her hand, and the floor between them changed. It hardened into black stone, forming a circle. The walls pulled back. Other hive women appeared, watching silently from balconies above. "You say no to the Queen's command," Varea said. "You must prove your right to refuse. We do not keep weak mates." Elias stepped back. "I didn't agree to any of this." Varea smiled. "You are already in it." Without warning, she charged. Elias barely dodged the spinning kick. She was fast, faster than any human he'd fought before. He rolled, reached for a weapon he didn't have, and stood with his fists ready. She came again, hands glowing with energy. He blocked the first strike, ducked under the second, and slammed his elbow into her side. She staggered slightly. He saw surprise in her eyes, then pain, then something else. Respect. They traded blows for minutes that felt like hours. Elias was stronger than she expected. She was faster than he wanted. But he didn't fall. Finally, Varea stepped back. Her chest rose and fell slowly. "You fight well," she said. "You have spirit. The hive honors that." Elias was sweating, bruised but standing. "I didn't come here for honor." "No," she said. "You came because the Queen chose you. But now, we see why." She stepped forward and touched his chest. "You are not just male, you are warrior, and the hive needs both." Suddenly, the Queen's voice echoed from above. "He has passed the first trial. Let the next begin." The crowd around them made a soft sound, neither cheers nor applause, just a quiet acknowledgement. Elias looked up and saw her, watching from a high platform, eyes glowing like suns. The Queen spoke again. Next, he must learn. He must see what awaits. He must understand. Varea turned to Elias. "Come. It is time you see the cradle." Elias frowned. "What's the cradle?" Varea didn't explain. She simply walked. And again, Elias followed. As they walked through more living corridors, Elias noticed something strange. Hive females bowed slightly as he passed. Not in fear, not in worship, but in recognition. He was no longer just a prisoner. He was something more. And the deeper he went, the more he wondered, what was the hive really planning, not just for him, but for all of humanity? The hallway grew colder as Elias followed Varea, deeper into the hive's core. The light changed from blue to green. The walls, once warm and alive, now pulsed slower, like a dying heartbeat. Elias could feel something in the air, something old. Varea walked ahead without looking back. Her long steps were quiet, almost respectful. Finally, they reached a circular chamber. It was vast. The ceiling stretched so high, Elias couldn't see where it ended. In the center of the room was a massive glowing pool. It bubbled softly with golden light. Strange roots dipped into it from the ceiling like veins. Around the pool were tall stone-like pillars, each covered in carvings of hive queens from different ages. "The cradle," Varea said, "where all hive life begins." Elias stepped closer. The pool wasn't water. It shimmered like thick liquid light. It was warm but not inviting. "This is where you create more of you?" he asked carefully. Varea nodded. "It is sacred." The cradle accepts only the strongest genetic seed. Most males die before they are even brought here, Elias frowned. And you think I'm the one to survive it? You already have, Varela said. You fought me and did not fall. You resisted the queen's voice and still stand. You have earned the right to know the truth. She pointed to the carvings. This hive has lasted 10,000 years. But something changed, our strength faded, our cradle weakened, the bloodline thinned. Elias looked at the glowing pool. So you hunt other species to fix that? Not species, Varela said. You. Only humans. Only your kind carries the balance we lost. He turned toward her. That's why you're invading colonies. You're not looking for land. You're looking for human males. Varela did not blink. We take what we must. The hive will not die. In silence, Elias walked around the cradle slowly. The carvings on the pillars showed strange stories. Queens with hundreds of children, queens with no face. Hive males, few in number, fighting beasts or vanishing into the pool. Then he saw something that made him stop. One of the carvings showed a human, not recent, ancient. A human male with armor and a hive queen beside him. They stood together, hands joined, ruling 1,000 hive warriors. Elias stared. That's a human. Yes, Varela said. He came long before your people knew space. The hive remembers him. He was the last who gave freely. Before war, before fear. What happened to him? No one knows, Varela said quietly. Some say he left. Some say he became part of the hive forever. Elias looked at her. And now the queen wants me to take his place? Varela stepped closer. No. She wants you to decide. Elias stepped back. You say it's my choice, but I was taken. My team was attacked. Your drones kill without mercy. Because humans resist, Varela said. You shoot before speaking, burn before asking. We are not gentle, but we are not monsters. Elias looked at the cradle again. It pulsed brighter now as if it knew he was near. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You don't have to know, Varela said. You only have to feel. The hive is not mindless. We remember. We feel. We choose. Like you, the chamber fell silent. Elias stood there surrounded by carvings of queens, glowing roots, and a pool that wanted to change everything. And for the first time, he didn't feel like a prisoner. He felt like a key. Elias sat in his chamber thinking about everything he had seen. The cradle, the carvings, the old human in the stone, the queen's voice in his head, the strange calmness that now sat beside his fear. He still didn't trust them, but part of him was curious. He stood up and walked toward the wall. It opened before he even touched it, as if the hive knew his thoughts. 2 attendants waited outside, but they didn't move to stop him. Elias walked past them. They followed silently. He didn't know where he was going. He just walked deeper into the hive, choosing random turns, passing strange doors and glowing vines. Then he heard it, a whisper, not a sound in the ears, but a pull in the mind. He followed it. The corridors twisted and grew darker. The walls no longer pulsed. Some of the lights were broken. He noticed cracks, something rare in the perfect living walls. This part of the hive was older, forgotten. The attendants stopped following. Elias kept walking. Finally, he entered a small chamber with only one figure inside. She was sitting on the floor, alone, wrapped in a dark cloak made of strange feathers and roots. Her hair was silver like the queen's, but wild. Her skin had faded markings like vines burned into her flesh. She looked up, and her eyes were not glowing. They were empty, but aware. You found me, she said softly. Her voice was dry, tired, but still powerful. Elias stepped closer. Who are you? She smiled sadly. I was once a queen. Before I refused, he froze. You disobeyed the hive? I chose to stop the cycle. I wanted peace. But the hive does not accept silence. So they buried me. Elias looked around the broken chamber. It felt cold, abandoned. She had been alone for years. "Why, are you still alive?" he asked. "Because they couldn't kill me," she replied. "Not without killing a part of the hive itself. My blood is in the roots." Elias felt a chill. "What do you want from me?" She stood slowly, her body thin but still graceful. "Not what the Queen wants. I don't want to use you. I want to free you." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Free? Me how?" "You are the second human the hive has chosen," she said. "The first gave himself. You were taken. But if you walk the full path, you will be bound forever. No escape. No end. Your mind will become part of the hive. Even your children will never be your own." Elias stared at her. "They said I had a choice." She stepped closer. "Only on the surface. But the hive always wins in the end." He looked down at his hands. "So what should I do? Run?" She shook her head. "You cannot run, but you can learn. There is a third way. A path not through breeding, but through balance." He looked up. "What does that mean?" She smiled again. "You must find the broken song." Elias blinked. "What?" But before she could answer, the walls groaned. The hive had noticed. The chamber shook. Vines pulled back. The path behind him closed. The lost queen grabbed his arm. "They know you're here. Go back before they see too much." The wall behind her opened for just a second, long enough for him to slip through. He ran. Back through the broken corridors. Back to light. Back to his chamber. When the door closed behind him, his heart was racing. He had found a secret the hive didn't want him to see. A queen who had said no. And now, a whisper in his mind wouldn't stop repeating one word. Balance. Elias couldn't sleep. The whisper from the lost queen stayed in his mind like an echo. Find the broken song. He didn't know what it meant, but it felt important. More than anything the queen had told him, more than the tests, the rituals, or the cradle. The hive had a secret, and Elias wanted to know what it was. The next morning he was summoned, but not by the queen. This time it was the elder chorus. Berea met him outside his chamber. "You're being called to the vault," she said. "The elders wish to see you." Elias followed without a word. They walked through wide halls lit with violet light. Hive warriors stood guard silently. Elias noticed how they glanced at him with quiet interest now, not as a prisoner, but as something more. They entered a domed chamber filled with rising platforms. At the top, sitting in a circle, were the elder hive, older than the queen. Their bodies thin, eyes dim, but filled with knowledge. Each one held a crystal staff that hummed softly. Berea gestured for Elias to step forward. One of the elders leaned closer. "You are the first human to touch the cradle in 1,000 years. Another spoke. "You are strong, but strength is not enough. You must learn the song." Elias stepped back. "What song?" "I don't understand." The oldest one pointed toward the center of the chamber. A beam of golden light shone down. In the middle was a smooth black stone platform. "Step forward," the elder said. "Let the hive sing through you." Elias hesitated, then stepped into the light. The moment he touched the platform, the chamber changed. The walls vanished. He was floating, not in space, but inside something deeper. A memory. He saw flashes. Hive, queens standing together under strange suns, a young human man with golden eyes walking beside them, laughing, trusted, then fire, betrayal, war, the hive screaming in pain, the man screaming back, and then silence. The song stopped. Elias fell to his knees. The vision faded. The room returned. Berea helped him stand. "What was that?" he asked. "The song," one elder said. "It is the hive's memory. It connects all queens, all warriors, all minds. It was once pure." Another elder spoke. "But when the first human vanished, the song broke, and we lost our way." Elias looked up. So you've been trying to fix it. With force. With fear. The elders did not deny it. You are the only one since him who can hear the broken part, the oldest said. That is why the queen wants you, not just to breed, but to complete the song. Elias shook his head. I'm just a soldier. No, Varela said quietly. You are the new voice. He looked around the chamber. The elders were not speaking with anger. They were tired, waiting, hoping. The hive wasn't just dying biologically. It was dying emotionally, spiritually. Their unity was broken. And now, Elias was standing in the space where a bridge could be built. He closed his eyes. He didn't trust them, but he had seen their truth. He thought of the lost queen's words. A third way, through balance. Maybe this was it. He opened his eyes. If I help restore the song, what happens to your war? The eldest elder nodded slowly. If the song heals, the hive will stop. Varela looked at him not with command but with respect. The choice is still yours. Elias looked at his hands. Rough, bruised, but steady. And he made a decision. I want to see the heart of the hive, he said. Take me there. The elders bowed. The next path had begun. Elias followed Varela down a narrow tunnel that twisted like the inside of a giant vine. The air felt heavy now, thicker than before. He could hear a low hum in the walls, deeper than any sound he'd heard since his arrival. It wasn't just sound. It was something alive. This way leads to the heart, Varela said softly. Only the queen and the elders may enter, but you have been given permission. Elias walked in silence. His thoughts were loud. Was this real? A week ago, he was leading a squad into a jungle war zone. Now he was being guided through a living alien temple, chosen by queens, trained in rituals, and shown visions of ancient memories. And now, they trusted him with their most sacred place. They came to a large chamber. It looked like the center of the hive. The floor was a smooth white shell, cracked in lines like veins. A massive tree-like structure stood in the middle, made of crystal and bone, pulsing with light. It rose up into the ceiling where roots spread in every direction, feeding the hive. This is the heart, Varela said. It holds the memory of all who have come before. Queens, warriors, even those who were lost. Elias stepped closer. He could feel the warmth in the air. The tree glowed with soft colors that changed as he moved. He touched the bark. In that instant, the hive opened to him again. But this time, he didn't see war. He saw peace. He saw the first human, taller than Elias, proud, smiling. He wasn't a soldier. He was a scientist, maybe an explorer. He had come to the hive not with weapons but with music. He played a simple tune on a small alien instrument, and the hive listened. Their minds, built on shared emotion and song, responded. The queens called it harmony. It was rare, precious. And with him, they had found it. But when he disappeared, the song changed. Fear replaced harmony. Control replaced curiosity. And the hive slowly broke. Elias pulled his hand away. His heart was pounding. He didn't breed with the hive, Elias whispered. He sang with them. Varela nodded. His voice shaped our minds. It was not flesh we needed. It was connection. Elias stepped back, understanding now. The queen said I had to breed or die, but that was never the full truth. No, Varela said. The queen fears extinction. She sees you as the last chance, but her vision is narrow. The elders believe there is another path, and now so do I. Elias turned to face her. What if I fail? Varela's voice was steady. Then the hive will choose war. They will take what they think they need. And Earth will burn. Elias stared up at the tree glowing softly above them. He didn't want this responsibility. He wasn't chosen by training. He was chosen by chance. But now, he was part of something bigger. He took a breath. I want to try, but But I need help. Varaya placed her hand on his chest. Then you will not do it alone. Suddenly, the tree responded. The lights shifted, the song returned. But it was broken, still missing pieces. Elias would have to find them. But for the first time, the hive had stopped holding him like a prisoner. Now they were listening, and that was a beginning. The queen stood alone in her chamber, watching the walls shift slowly like waves. Her crown of living crystal dimmed, reflecting her thoughts. She had not spoken since the elders allowed Elias into the heart. She had allowed it, but only because she had no choice. She hated feeling weak. A hive queen was never supposed to fear. But she did. Not because of Elias, because of the past. Long ago she had known the first human. His name had been Arlen. He was not strong like Elias. He was quiet, curious, gentle. He came to them through peace, through music, through strange laughter. The hive had never known before. She had loved him in her own way, not like humans love, but like the hive remembers. Deep, rooted, eternal. And then one day, he vanished. No war, no goodbye, just gone. His absence tore through the hive like a sickness. The song he had brought, the harmony they all shared, collapsed. Queens blamed each other. Warriors turned cold. The cradle began to fail. The queen was younger then, not as powerful, not as patient. She rose to rule with strength. No more songs, only survival, only control. And now, after all this time, another human had been found. One who could touch the hive, one who could hear the song again, and he refused her. He fought her, and worse, he reminded her of Arlen. She turned toward the pool in her chamber, a smaller cradle connected to the hive's main heart. It glowed faintly, barely alive. She placed her hand on the edge and whispered a thought into the root line. The pool showed her Elias. He stood in the heart of the hive, surrounded by light, by memory, by history. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't weak. He was listening. A part of her felt hope, but another part burned with fear, because if he chose the elders, if he chose the old path of peace, her rule would weaken, her voice would fade, her control would break, and the hive year might change in ways she could no longer shape. She clenched her fist. The hive had always been female, always born from strength, always guided by the queens. The idea of a human leading them, even gently, felt like betrayal. But the song was returning. She could feel it deep in her roots. And it wasn't coming from her. It was coming from Elias, from his memory, from his pain, from his strange human soul. The queen looked toward the ceiling, toward the highest chamber where the hive's future waited. She spoke aloud, voice cold and sharp. Prepare the final rite. 2 attendants entered quietly and bowed. The queen's eyes burned bright again. If he wishes to change us, she said, he must first survive us. She walked toward her, throne and sat, the roots of the hive curling around her like armor. The last time a human entered the final rite, the hive was reborn. This time, it might die, or rise again as something new. Elias was led through the hive's tallest spire by 2 silent warriors. They did not speak. They did not look at him. Their minds were locked behind walls even he could not touch. But their movements were slow and respectful, not like guards. More like guides. He could feel the hive pressing in around him. The walls hummed with sound, not violent but deep, like a drum preparing for a storm. He knew where he was going. To the queen. To the final test. The doors opened, and he stepped inside the queen's chamber. It was unlike any place he had seen before. The walls were smooth and curved like a giant shell. In the center stood the queen on a raised platform of white crystal. Her long hair flowed behind her like silk. Her eyes burned with golden light. But there was something different now. She looked tired. Not weak, but worn. She watched him in silence for a long moment, then spoke. "You have seen the cradle. You have touched the heart. You know the song." Elias nodded. "I've also seen what fear has done to your people." Her voice was calm. "Fear kept us alive." He stepped forward. "But it's also what killed the song." The queen lowered, her head slightly, her eyes dimming. "Do you believe you can fix it?" "No," Elias said, "but I believe we can." She tilted her head. "And if I do not let go, if I refuse to change?" "Then everything ends," Elias replied. "The Hive, my people, all of it." The queen stood in silence, then lifted one hand. A glowing circle appeared on the floor between them. Soft music played from nowhere, notes like wind and light. "This is the final rite," she said. "It is not a fight. It is not a demand. It is a joining." Elias looked at the light. "If I step into it?" "You give yourself," the queen said. "Not your body, your voice, your pain, your memory. All of it will become part of the hive. And if I don't? The hive returns to war. The cradle fades. Our kind vanishes. But we will not die quietly." Elias looked down at his hands. He thought of his squad, his home, the hive warriors who trained beside him, the lost queen in the shadows, the elders, the song, and then he looked at her, the queen who once chose control over connection. "Why did you lie to me?" he asked. "Why say I must breed or die?" The queen's voice was low. "Because I feared another loss. I feared you would leave. Like Arlen." Elias stepped closer. "I'm not him." "I know," she said. "But I remember him through every route. His memory is inside me. I still feel his leaving." Elias looked into her eyes. "I'm not here to leave," he said. "I'm here to stand." He stepped into the circle. The light grew brighter. The sound became a wave. His mind opened, and he felt everything. The pain of lost children, the silence of forgotten queens, the ancient sorrow of a race built on unity that shattered into fear. But he also felt their hope and their wonder. He opened his voice. He didn't sing. He spoke. He told the hive about Earth, about laughter, about loss, about standing in the mud with no one to help, but still choosing to fight. He gave them memory. He gave them heart. The queen stepped forward, entering the light. She placed her hand on his chest, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the queen cried, not because she was broken, but because the hive was whole again. The chamber was silent. The circle of light faded. The hum in the walls softened. The hive listened. Elias stood with the queen, her hand still resting on his chest. Around them, the living spire had gone still, like the hive itself was holding its breath. The rite was complete, but there was no ceremony, no cheers, only quiet. Then, from deep inside the hive, a sound began. Soft at first, a single note. Not music, not words, just a feeling. It grew slow and steady, like roots finding water again. Elias could feel it. It wasn't just sound. It was connection, thought, memory, life. The hive was singing again, but this time the voice was different. It was his. Not controlling, not commanding, just present. He felt the minds of thousands, hive sisters, elders, attendants, warriors, and none of them felt fear. None of them felt hunger. They felt calm. Even the queen had closed her eyes. Her golden glow dimmed, not from weakness, but from peace. She spoke softly. "It has returned." Elias nodded. "The song?" "The true song," she whispered. "Not made from power, not forced, but shared." He looked around the chamber. "What happens now?" The queen turned toward the glowing walls. "Now the hive becomes something new. Outside, across the massive ship, The change was already happening. Drones stopped hunting. Warriors lowered their weapons. The cradle pulsed brighter than ever. In the heart of the hive, the roots shimmered with gold and green light, spreading through the entire system. Every queen connected, every memory rewoven, and Earth was no longer seen as prey, it was seen as kin. Elias walked beside the queen as the walls opened to a balcony. The hive's world spread before them, crystal towers, breathing gardens, and ships shaped like stars. Below, hive females looked up and bowed, not in submission, but in unity. The queen spoke again. "You are not our master. You are not our ruler. But you are our voice now, part of the hive, and still human." Elias looked at her. "So the command, it's over?" She smiled. "There is no more command, only choice." Viraya stepped forward from the shadows, placing her hand over her heart. "The warriors have accepted the new path. We await your guidance." Elias raised his hand. "Then hear this," he said. "Let no human be taken again. Let peace guide our future. And if the hive lives, it must live with honor." The hive accepted. Across the stars, the signal changed. What was once a threat, "You must breed with us all, or you will die," was replaced with something new. "We are hive, we are healed, and we are ready to listen." Back on Earth, the Alliance listened to the message with disbelief. The war stopped. Diplomats prepared for peace talks, and Elias chose to stay, not as a prisoner, not as a symbol, but as a bridge. He walked the hive's roots. He taught them laughter. He told them stories. He listened to theirs. The queen remained by his side, not as a ruler, but as a partner. They did not marry. They did not breed. But they built something far stronger. A future. Together. And deep within the hive, the song continued. Alive. True. And human.